Hello, Cameron Crowe and Drew Wood here. We're going to be talking about Drew's Coal Valley story. But I'm going to give you a little context if you haven't seen what this is all about yet, or don't know what going to be talking about. Basically, I wrote a blog post. I don't know how long ago. The original post was in February 25th. I think it's been 5 or 6 weeks. And I talked about basically why I really feel that the Coal Valley, the upbringing I had and the teaching I had got at Coal Valley Christian School, K through 12, was really harmful to my personal development. And looking back, I see a lot of major issues with the way that system is run. So I posted this without really any kind of plan of anything that would happen. I just needed to get it off my chest and felt like it was the right thing to do. Like that this perspective is out there in the open so that anybody can see it. And in particularly parents that are considering putting kids in the school have this to consider as well. But it exploded. It erupted. I was like, my phone was blowing up nonstop for pretty much like 3 weeks. And after about a week and a half of getting basically like dozens and dozens of people messaging me saying, thank you so much for doing this. I thought I was alone. Here's my story. I realized that there was something here and there were real pains that people needed to talk about. So we started a support group, and people started telling their stories, and we all started hearing everybody else's stories and things that we never knew, or maybe only knew a couple stories. After you see dozens and dozens of them, and at this point we have almost 140 members of the support group, you start to see patterns, and it really got us fired up. And so we started a website called Coal Valley Speaks. It has a link to the support group here. This is coalvalleyspeaks.com if you want to get to it. And then we're also going to be filming a documentary. So there's a form here if you want to be interviewed for that. But the thing I'm most proud of about all this so far, besides all the interviews like Drew's, we've got, I think, something like 11 or 12 of them now, and Drew's will be on here shortly. We came together and wrote what we called the joint statement. So this was basically 2 or 3, it was probably like between 20 and 30 people that contributed to this document. And we basically laid out all the problems, the main patterns of the problems that we saw, and like what students felt, what they should feel, and what we propose as solutions to improve on this and we tried to make it, solutions that weren't, that allowed Coal Valley to still maintain its identity. But anyways, this is here, and this is like, we spent 100 hours on this. It was a lot of work. And this has been sent to Coal Valley. We delivered it to Coal Valley kind of in the first unofficial meeting, and we're basically waiting to hear back their response. And hopefully we can have a bigger meeting and talk about more things. So that is all the context. To kick things off, Drew, maybe you can tell us what went through your head when you saw some of this stuff happening.
Like what I saw from
the blog post and the support group.
At first, when I saw it, I was really interested in what you had to say. Of course, I also felt like I was one of the only people who had a similar experience, and my brain exploded.
But it wasn't because you were surprised at the positions, or just that somebody said it so publicly, or?
Well, it's more like after my experience, I just like my whole senior year, I barely talked to anybody. The only time I really talked to someone was a couple people during class who I sat next to. I didn't really hang out with anybody. My friends, I didn't eat lunch with them anymore. I was alone pretty much the whole time. I had fun with quite a few people at the same time, but choir was like my only outlet that I had. And so I didn't really try to share other people's experiences with Coal Valley in my senior year.
Gotcha. So you didn't really know where people were at, per se.
Yeah, they were all like it kind of was like they were on their own stuff and I was
Okay.
on mine.
Yeah, I want to ask you more questions about that, but maybe
Yeah.
another good place to start would be kind of your background. Like when
Yeah.
did you start at Coal Valley? Kind of
Yeah.
give us a recap of kind of your Coal Valley kind of experience.
Yeah. So I started in third grade. Um I um for the first couple years it was me and my siblings. We all went to Cole. And a couple years later my mom started as the librarian. So she was also a teacher there. And then it was pretty much from there. I had a lot of friends when I first went there. Um, I was very social, and um, it was just elementary was kind of a neat experience when I first started because I came from like a homeschooling group. Before that, all of my siblings were homeschooled until then, and
You said it
so
was a neat experience.
yeah, it
Like
was.
it was a refreshing.
Yeah, it was really refreshing at first, and it was good to get out of the house and actually meet kids in my own age group.
Hmm.
Um, but then as the years went by, I started feeling more judgment. Like sixth grade hit, and then everyone started getting judgmental, and I felt a little restraint. Then about eighth grade, my mom pulled us out for 2 semesters to try to homeschool us again. Um, and then realized it pulling us out of like private school or school in general just kind of didn't work.
Cat was out of the bag. Can't go back to homeschooling now, or
Yeah, and she didn't want us to go to public school. Um,
why did she want to homeschool you at that point?
um,
Do you remember?
it's kind of hard to say. I think that at that time, um, I was personally like I didn't like school in general. I started hating it. And then I had already realized that I was gay by sixth grade. I knew I
Wow.
liked,
Okay.
well, sorry, I knew that I liked guys. I didn't know if I liked girls or not.
Yeah.
So at that time, I knew that something was weird with me. So I started pulling in and not talking to anyone. And so I think my mom took that as like, maybe it's just school and he doesn't like it and he's not learning well. He's probably ADD kind of stuff. So she tried to take the learning into her own hands
Mm.
and teaching. And so she tried and I hated it. And I told her that I was like, this is so dumb. I'd rather go back to school. And she did. She got me back in to school after that and just went right back to the same group, same age group. And um, I had a group of 3 friends. I probably won't say any names, but they actually all turned out to be part of the LGBT community. After I graduated, I found all that out. Um,
Did they all know, like during, like you did?
um, I think one of them didn't. Um, she had no idea. I don't think she still knows. She
Okay.
knows that she's something, but she has no idea what. And then another one, I think she knew, but she was hiding it and kind of controlling it like I did.
Hmm.
And then the other one, she didn't, she was bi. And so she just liked guys in school, like just like guys. So,
Right. Right.
um, it was all different stories for us, but we were all really close
Yeah.
all time. So until senior year.
And then what happened senior year?
Senior year was when my story that I posted happened. We were
You
all,
want to you want to kind of fill any
yeah.
viewers in on that?
Um, the I had started realizing that I was gay. I didn't like girls. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? One of the teachers started telling me, well, in general, to to groups of kids that were in certain areas that seemed recluse. They're like, hey, so if people are feeling like they're not straight, then there's a camp that's good for kids who don't feel like they're on the straight and narrow. They didn't really full out say, if you're gay, then
Yeah, because nobody's
go to straight
gay.
camp.
That's like a choice, right?
Yeah, right. So that's kind of what kicked it off for me, and I was like, I would probably rather kill myself before I ever went there. I've seen documentaries about kids going to conversion camps and committing suicide. I've had people tell me about their experiences in them, and it's just awful. So I was like, I would rather not talk my entire senior year to anybody and let them find out. So I didn't. I tried not to. So after that, I think it was actually the same day or the same week that I went to Bible class, and it was like a debate class at the same time. The subject of should gay marriage be legal or should it not? And two people had to be on one team and two people had to be on another team for this, but one kid stood out and was just like, gays should be hung and castrated and set on fire and just gone from the world. And they kept saying this a couple times, like everyone was just kind of like dumbfounded that they said that. So nobody really said anything, and then like kept repeating it, and then all of a sudden someone was like, shut up. And I was just sitting there like, wow, I didn't know people felt so strongly about this. And my brain was like, everybody at this school feels like that. Come to find out, years later, that there were like all my friends that I just listed, they were in that same class, and then there were a couple other people that I found out were a part of the LGBT community.
Yeah.
So, and that I didn't really ask them about that certain experience, but that one hit me really hard.
No kidding.
Yeah, that was a struggle for me. I went home I told my sister this the other day, but I went home that same afternoon and swallowed all my prescription pills. And I vomited right away, and it was really hard for me to like understand why I was alive. If the whole world feels like this. And like I was sick. I contemplated multiple other ways of committing suicide, and my grades were so low. I was barely scraping by all my classes, just because I didn't want to live. And somehow I pulled through. I don't know really what happened. I guess more people reached out to me. They like noticed what was going on. Other students in my grade who I was kind of close with, who were in choir. And it was awful. Mainly senior year was the hard hitter for me.
Man, going back to that class, it seems like that class discussion, let alone what that student said, would have been your worst nightmare. If you were already, like shutting down because you didn't want anybody to know, and then like you had to sit in a class where this was like what everybody was talking about, and I don't know, theoretically, like you were maybe expected to participate.
Yeah.
Like you must have been terrified without that what that kid said.
Yeah. I actually had to be on the side that was that was against gay marriage too. It was one of the most difficult classes I've ever had to fake. And then just like that whole time was so hard for me. It was so stressful with that kid in all classes. So
And you mentioned you were surprised when he said it, like, wow, I never knew somebody could basically like hate gay people so much.
Yeah,
But you already felt like, you know, it wasn't okay to be gay, right? Since you were kind of
yeah. They always
withdrawn.
they always told us like being gay is wrong. It makes they're sexual deviants, they're pedophiles. They're all wrong, and they should all like people basically treated them like sex offenders
Yeah.
already, like without even knowing a person. They were like, "Yep, you're a sex offender if you're gay.
Right.
Doesn't matter."
Yeah, I vaguely remember kind of thinking that way, or
Yeah,
that was kind of, the common view.
right. Yeah.
So so you so you already felt like, it was like really, 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 really bad, maybe one of the worst things to be gay.
Hmm.
But that, like what that kid said, took it to another level, and that kind of made you feel like this is how, like you said, like everybody thinks this.
Yeah.
Do you think that was because you were in such a vulnerable spot and so sensitive to it that like you heard it there, and then you kind of like, I could see how it would be easy to be like, I heard this, it's not maybe what I had been hearing before, it's way more, but this is what people believe but don't say. Like, is that what it felt like? Or
Yeah, kind of. After I like reflected on a lot of it, I feel the people who speak the loudest show the most opinion. And then the people who don't do nothing confirm those opinions. So having him say that and like no everybody just kind of be shocked and then not say anything for the first little bit, it was like,
basically
okay,
like approval?
yeah, everyone's like, okay, yeah, that's how we feel. Until someone said shut up, I was like, okay, well that person is at least frustrated, so I know that they're good. But like I realized too, I was like, I didn't say anything. So
And that was a student that said shut up?
yeah, yeah, it was a student. Um, the teacher, they were in a rough position too, because I don't think it followed their beliefs what they were teaching. Um, and um, I talked to that teacher after Coal Valley, and they said that they have a sibling who's gay, and this was like one of the main reasons why they were leaving because they didn't believe they didn't form the same ideas that Coal Valley did with the same teachings.
Wow.
So and it was like, all right, where's the boundary for the teacher to step in and be like, you need to
Right.
stop?
It's like against the curriculum. Maybe they felt like it was against the curriculum to like say that that's too far.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So it's like a fine line of being like, okay, well, let's not say anything or like, hey, knock it off. We'll talk about it later. Something.
Right.
And it was just awkward for everybody.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the people that want to dismiss these criticisms, or that these are real systemic problems, want to say that these are bad apples. You've got a few bad apples. It's not the system, it's just a few people.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think about, like, how do you answer those people? Like, Coal Valley's fine. It's, there's, we can't help that, like, some people, are crazy.
Yeah. That's a very good question. It's um, people, it's hard for them to step out of their comfort zone and talk to people who are so forceful with their opinions. And it's easier to just take the passive route, just to be like, okay, so that person is a specific individual. They don't realize that once that person starts speaking their mind, other people may gain the same perspective as that person, because they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and nobody's standing out to correct them. So other people start gaining like minds, and it turns into a cluster. Um,
Yeah.
but it's also this at the same time they also took other instances that were easier to deal with and treated them like they were the worst thing.
What do you mean?
Like with girls
Mhm.
and their attire. um, like they would say having a low cut shirt was so revealing. They would go after that girl um, who might have had a low cut shirt, or that teacher might have been looking at a certain angle and it seemed a lot more revealing than it was. Um, and then a guy acted on his impulse of that. And then they would yell at the girl for it. So they're like taking the wrong route. They're like, okay, so that's not really. So like the issue was is that the guy acted, not the girl.
Right.
So they acted on the girl's attire instead of the real issue, which was the guy. Um, so
Yeah,
they
the
like
guys can't be
misdirected.
responsible for their own actions. It's like the girls need to not tempt them.
Yeah, yeah,
Whether it's, like, some of the stories that I've heard seem like utterly ridiculous in terms of like what actually constitutes tempting somebody.
yeah,
They're just being yourself and wearing normal clothes.
yeah.
Um,
It's ridiculous.
but going back to the culture, like
Yeah.
the systemic thing, like to me, listening to your story, you know, some people that might think like, well, okay, it's not like every single class where, and maybe the teacher didn't even say like, um, gays should be hung, castrated, and lit on fire. Like the teacher didn't say that.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not like that's some the teacher saying that in every class. That's not what it requires to like be systemic, like a hatred of like gay people. Um, like the fact that there's no like written protections for them, and basically like by omission,
Hmm.
like just by not saying anything and allowing people to say stuff, and then maybe stepping in, maybe not, you're basically like it probably didn't take much for you to like pick up really quickly that like this school hates gay people.
Hmm.
It's not like they needed to like make it part of the curriculum of every class. It's like it's probably pretty easy to gather, I would guess.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like ever since I was young, the focus was on that part of sin, was that it's wrong and that nobody should be gay. And after that, like anything that was to oppose being gay was right. So it was hard in general.
Yeah, because you're like, well, it kind of falls into that like hate, love the sinner, hate the sin.
Yeah,
What's your take on that? I feel like that phrase was used so much. It's
yeah.
like what is
um,
that? What, like, how do you remember that? What does that make you think of? Like, how do you
I
feel about
feel like a lot of people took it a different way. Um, like my mom, she took it a way that I would think would be valid. She still does. She's Christian, and um, she, she still believes that being gay is a sin. Um, but she she loves Matt. She loves my fiance. She she'll get upset if we don't go over once a week. And have him over, and they're going to the wedding now. And
that? Oh,
the
they weren't going to originally.
They weren't. No, my dad
Um,
actually originally told me, him and my mom were like, if we're just basing going to your wedding off of what we believe, then we won't go. Um, yeah, it was kind of a strong hit, and I was like, my mom talked to me more about it. My dad, long time ago, like 6 years ago, told me after I came out for a couple of years, he's like, if you marry a guy, I won't be part of your life. Was basically how it came out, um, or at least how I took it. Um, and then Um, then I think it took a lot, like my brother passing away and all of us moving back in and everything, and me eventually moving back out, and then still seeing them after a while, kind of hit him and was like, I would never miss your wedding. And he kind of realized, he's like, I don't want to lose my son. Um, at one point he felt like he did. And then I think after my brother passing away, he was like, I really don't want to lose my son. So
Yeah.
they're like, of course we're going to go to the wedding. We love you. Um, and we love Matt, but we don't support gay marriage, but we're still going to be there for you. So loving the sinner, hating the sin, it's like a gray area in their eyes, but they still love me, and that means that they're going to be there to support me anyway.
Wow.
Other people, they don't see it like that. They're like, oh no, that person's sinning and they know they're sinning, that we're not going to be around that person.
It's basically like justification to hate the sinner.
Yeah,
It's like,
basically.
as long as I say this, it's like I get a pass, basically, or something.
Yeah. It's like when Southerners say, bless her heart, and then they can say whatever they want after that.
Something totally so offensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild with your parents.
Yeah.
Did they? So you knew for a long time that you were attracted to men.
Yeah. I'd say probably like fourth or fifth grade.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
What did this ever come up with your parents, like during school? Like, eventually you came out and they they kind of dealt with it, and then they've come around to some degree since then. But
Yeah.
what about the early days?
Yeah. I guess I kind of tricked them. Um, like when internet became a major thing, and porn came out, like I guess I looked at some, and they had a keylogger system. They found a keylogger, and because they started finding viruses and didn't know why, so they started trying to see what we were looking at. First thing I hear is my sister looked up a picture of a shirtless guy, and then they found out what I was looking at, and they tried to take me to a counselor. And
Tried?
huh?
They tried to take you. Like, did you go?
Yeah, I did go. Um, it was weird because I think my mom wanted everybody to go to a counselor already. But she took me there, and I didn't know what their intentions were at first. They were like, we're trying to figure out what's going on with you. We don't know what's wrong. And I
You
played
didn't know
dumb.
it was about like your attraction to men as much
I
as
knew it was some of that.
okay.
Um, but my mom kind of lumped in a bunch of other stuff together as she wanted to fix a ton of my problems. Why I wasn't doing well in school, stuff like that. But it was all that one problem.
Yeah.
And so I was playing dumb to the counselor, acting like I didn't know why I was there. He asked me personal questions like, do you know what an erection is? Why do you know when you get an erection? Stuff like that. He was trying to be careful with the questions.
Like
Yeah.
circle around it somehow, like get you
I
to
think he
volunteer.
tried some vague questions originally, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no clue what you're talking about. So he tried to ask more direct questions, but still ride that fine line.
Yeah.
And I told him I told him, no, I don't really get those. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I was like, I was just looking at the stuff online because I didn't know what it meant. I had no idea. And so he bought it. My parents bought it. Apparently, a lot of people are looking at pornography in my family. And so they were just like, okay, we're all going to watch this Christian video that shows you why pornography is bad and nobody should watch it. And
Sounds like a fun family activity.
Yeah, it was like the typical, like your eyes will burn out of your sockets. You'll get warts on your hands, that kind of stuff.
Really?
No, it wasn't. I think a lot of it
It
was,
was just overreacting, or
yeah, I was overreacting, and then they were like trying to teach like the big biblical reasons why you shouldn't watch that stuff. But they did mention those things in there as a joke too, so it was like
okay.
subliminal messages.
Yeah.
But so at that time, and that was probably like eighth to ninth grade, when that happened. But they just kind of, I guess, I didn't ever talk
That
to
passed
about
for then.
anything like that at home. I would just sit in my room on my computer and play video games in my room. That was it. I never really went on the main computer. I didn't let them near any of my stuff. So it was just kind of like, okay, now I know where to cut out my family's access to
Where
my
the
stuff.
lines are, you can't cross these lines, so I just won't let them in.
Yeah, so they won't know. So they never
Right.
really talked to me about that stuff.
And then never again in high school.
Nope.
Oh,
There was probably like one or two other kids that called me gay, and then other people are like, "Shut up, he's not gay. He went out with Amanda in 10th grade." And that's when I found out I was actually gay. I was not bi, I was gay.
yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of like cut off after that, and those who thought they knew, they didn't say anything.
Did you feel when people said he's not gay, he went out with Amanda, like did that feel did it feel like they were defending you, like they were backing you up, but at the same don't make fun of him, don't call him gay because he's not gay, it's like they were trying to like back you up, but in so doing they were kind of like driving that like pain deeper and deeper.
I guess it was a little bit of backup, because when they said that, "Oh, he's gay," or "Are you gay?" I was like panicking. I was like, "No, I'm not gay," and then they wouldn't believe me. And then that other person was like, "No, he's not gay," and I was like, "Oh, phew, I'm relieved that didn't
I
get
let you
out."
off the hook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I absolutely didn't want to come out in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And you didn't know until after that some of your friends were also gay
Yeah.
or LGBT.
Um, um, yeah. So I came out actually while I was a teacher's aide for choir. Um, and they basically were like,
In
"Don't
high
talk about,"
school?
huh?
You came out in high school?
After high school. So I
Oh,
graduated, and then
you were helping
I
out?
was an assistant for choir. I helped Miss Sutherland and brought the kids downstairs and would do a bunch of um, like I'd do sectionals for them and whatnot, so they would be able to learn their parts.
Hmm.
Um, and then I started dating a guy then, and then I came out to my parents. Um, and then the school found out that I was dating a guy because he dropped me off. Um, I did make a dumb decision, and I brought him in there as a visitor. Um, and while I was teaching or helping teach, and um, they basically asked me to leave, um, which I understood. Bringing him there was completely dumb, especially knowing their views on it. Um, but
They asked you to leave, like stop helping out, or just like leave that day.
um, they said it was that day, um, but there was more. They called my mom. They told her what happened. They said he's not allowed to do that. Talk to him. They didn't even talk to me about it. They communicated to my parents, say, "Hey, don't let him do this again." Um, and then I went in, and I was ready to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna stop. Um, they're like, "No, you don't need to stop. You just can't talk about being gay. You can't do anything. You can't you can't date a guy. You can't do anything like that." And I was like, well, then I won't work here anymore. Like, I'm not getting paid anyways, and it's just kind of like a internship.
Helping out, yeah.
Um, I talked to Miss Sutherland about it, and then I was basically like, sorry, I love this, but I can't be here anymore.
What did Miss Sutherland say?
At first, I think they pressured her to be like, you're not gay. She said one phrase that I remember. She did say, um, I know gay people and I know I have gay friends and you don't seem gay. You don't seem gay to me. And I was like, well, I am. And I
I'll
think
tell
she
you,
was
yeah.
trying to be nice and at that time she I don't think she really agreed with anything that she had said because I've talked to her since then. She's like, I'm so sorry for everything. If I said anything, I don't think she remembered saying that. But she's like, if I said anything that was like that, I'm so sorry. That's not how I feel. She's like, I love you. You're amazing, and I hope you're really happy. And I'm like, I am. I'm happy
Mhm.
now. I'm so happy.
Yeah. So, tell walk me through the whole bringing your boyfriend to school thing. Like you said, it was stupid, but
Yeah,
what leading up to it, you were like, I'm graduated. I'm an adult now. I can kind of
yeah.
where
Well, I
you're
was
coming from.
I was feeling kind of rebellious, of course. Now that I was open about being me. Um, I I knew what their views were, and me being there as an intern, I knew that it wasn't already in their eyes appropriate for me to say I'm gay, let alone bring in my partner at that time into there. Um, and so I already knew what they didn't want me to do, and I still did it. It kind of jeopardized my mom's relationship with the school.
Hmm.
Um,
That reflected on her somehow.
yeah, lots of parents and teachers, um, from what I remember being told, basically reflected negatively towards her for all this. Um, and my siblings too. A lot of people were mad at my siblings, and people were very rude to my family. I don't
Because
know.
of that.
Yeah, I don't know who was rude to them. They didn't really tell me. Um, but at one point, my family thought about moving out of state because of how bad it was. Um,
Wow.
yeah, um, yeah, that was a bit frustrating.
Wow. Um, so you said you came out to your parents.
Hmm.
Um, that was after you graduated.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
within a year after I
within the
graduated.
year, yeah. How did that go? Because I know how the counseling thing went, and then that basically didn't come up again. And
Yeah,
then it was no, here, listen up.
yeah. um, I felt like it was a work. It was like a huge job for me to come out. My friends who I came out to, I started with the ones who I thought would um, be okay
Support
with
you.
that. Jessie Heil. I was actually the gay kid who she talked about in her video. She was one of the first people I told about, and she's like, "I know." I was like, "No, I don't think you heard what I said. I like guys," and she's like, "Yeah, I know. I've known for a while." I was like, "Oh, okay."
That
And then
probably felt good, right?
yeah, it did. At first, I was a little like, "Okay, why aren't you more surprised about this?"
Like you're not getting it.
Yeah,
You don't get what this means. I'm gay.
yeah, right. um, and then a couple other friends did did the same thing. They're like, oh, I at first I like the ones who are like, okay, they're gonna be not more accepting. I'd be like, I'm bi. I think I like guys, and then if they were okay with it, I'm like, okay, I'm gay. And then they're like, yeah, we know.
Okay.
um, and then other ones, it was just hard. Like my sister, at the time, she was still at Coal Valley when I came out to her. I came out to my siblings, or my sister first. And she was like, that's not okay. And I was like, I told her, I was like, I've prayed about this for so many years. I've prayed to be straight, and I've read all the Bible verses, and I've read everything that could help me, and I've tried to get help. And in the long run, I just don't believe God would make me this way and then make me hate my life.
Right.
So
God loves you, which is, supposed to be, the big thing.
yeah, right. I was like, if everyone's saying God is love, then this isn't love if people treat it this way.
Right.
So she just was like, she didn't really know what to think. So she was like, okay. So she said she would keep my secret for me, away from my parents. And then I started going on some dates. I've told mainly almost all my friends. And then my sister was like, Drew, I think mom and dad know. I think they're figuring it out. I think they really know. And this is on Valentine's Day of 2011. And so the guy I was dating at that time, it just kind of broke down, and I was like, I have to tell my parents. And then I went home and I told them. I told my mom first, and the first words that came out of her mouth was, "Are you sure you're gay?" I was like, "Yes, mom, I'm sure I'm gay. I wouldn't have told you unless
I
I
didn't
was
think of
sure."
this yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been on my mind for a while. And then I didn't tell my dad for a week because I was afraid of what he would say. And so my mom kept pressuring me. She's like, "You have to tell him because I'm not going to tell him." I went to him. He was sitting at his computer desk playing his games, and I asked him to pause it, and I told him, I was like, "Dad, I'm gay." He's like, "You think you're gay?" I was like, "No, I'm gay." It's like, "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm gay, Dad." And I kind of cried about it at that time in front of him, and right then they didn't know what to think. They didn't know how to react, so it kind of felt like things were okay. But then that other guy I was with, he broke up with me shortly after. And then I dated the boyfriend who I brought to school. Things just kind of started falling apart there with my parents. They're like, you're all this, you're rebellious, you're living a gay lifestyle. We thought that you might try to be more godly now that you told us. I was like, no, I told you because I'm embracing who I am. Um, I'm not doing this so that you can pray for me and make me straight. That was more to my mom than my dad. My dad didn't really say much about it. But we butted heads a lot. I told my oldest brother Sean, too, and he was like, "I don't care that you're gay." He was the only one out of my whole family. He's like, "I don't care that you're gay. I love you. You're my brother. Have him over. Let's smoke hookah. Let's have a beer." At that time, it was a beer at that time, and he was just very cool with it. I ended up moving in with him for a little bit, but the guy I was with ended up being a bad influence on my life. But after I lived with my brother, I lived with him, that guy, for about 9 months, and I didn't talk to my family almost that whole 9 months. The only time I talked to them was to sell my car to my sister, and the rest of the time it was like, they're gonna treat me bad. I'm not. The only person I'm gonna talk to is my brother, and I rarely talk to him just because of how I was living my life at that time.
So yeah. So you when your brother passed away, that really kind of brought your family closer together and reinforced family's important. We need to like, we're all we have. We need to love each other, put aside, whatever, silly things are keeping us apart.
Kind of, yeah.
And I was going to ask, like, you mentioned where your parents, still think it's a sin to be gay, but they are going to come to your wedding, and they love you and they see you a lot. Where are your other siblings at now?
So my brother that passed away, Taylor, a month before he died, a month before he died, he got married, and we are getting ready for his wedding. And he told me, he's like, I don't care that you're gay. I love you. I just don't want you to be with a jerk. So we made our peace with that before he passed. So that was really good. Sean, he's still awesome. He's married and has a kid now, and hence the shirt.
Nice.
Yeah. And he loves Matt, and everything. And then Bethany, my sister, she's good with everything. I've had conversations with her on whether she believes being gay is a sin or what. I think she thinks it's a sin, but I don't know. I've talked to her about why I believe it's not wrong, and she's kind of been hesitant on what she believes.
Unsure.
Yeah, so it's hard, but she knows she loves Matt. She knows she loves me. I don't think she really thinks it's wrong, that we love each other.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in the wedding.
Right.
So all my siblings are awesome with everything. So
good.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask, and then if you have anything you wanted to cover before we go into the standard last two questions, then we can do those. But But it occurred to me that it might be surprising to Coal Valley people, or maybe anybody, that there were so many LGBT kids in that Bible class.
Yeah, I think
there were 3 of them or 4 of them.
I believe there were 4.
So
maybe 5 at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
to me, that's like, I think that it's easy to say, like the one criticism we already covered, that's like, well, it's not systemic. There's just a few bad apples. We can't, can't make everybody behave at all times. We talked about like how it's, way easier to pick up on a systemic kind of cultural thing, like, than without you having to come out and say it, we're anti-gay, but like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which they kind of did anyway. But I think the other thing that makes it easier for some people to dismiss these issues is that, like, they think there aren't that many gay kids at Coal Valley or LGBT kids at Coal Valley. Yeah. And just like your story, that there's like 4 or 5 in that one Bible class, which was probably like 20 kids.
Yeah.
Like,
it's crazy. And I actually didn't know there were that many until like within the last month.
From the support group.
Yeah. Some people have come to me and talked to me about themselves, and then some people have even apologized to me if they've ever said anything. And it's crazy because I was like, I had no idea that person those people were LGBT at that time. Like, so I'm like, okay, so at first I was thinking, okay, I knew 2 others besides me that were LGBT in that group. And then I'm like, okay, now there are like 4 or 5 people. So I'm like, okay, how many other people that are LGBT that are still either not talking about it or that I don't know? It's
right.
blowing.
Well, and what's the research? It's like 10 to 20% of population
Yeah.
is gay or is
Yeah.
or is
Like
non-straight.
yeah, that's about it. I thought yeah, it's around in between 10 to 20.
Mhm.
It's
To me, the lesson there is like, just because you don't know kids aren't straight doesn't mean they're, that they're straight. Like,
yeah. I
you
get what
don't
you mean
know
too.
which. I don't know if I said that right. Yeah. But just because you don't know doesn't mean that it's not true. Like,
Mhm.
and you don't know which kids you are like driving to suicide
Mhm. Yeah.
just by having what you believe is like a super standard, you know, normal, position and teaching and curriculum. Like to you, this is like totally like rational, legit, moderate, maybe even.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but to these kids that you might not know who they are, it could be making driving them to certainly depression and maybe even suicide.
Yeah. Absolutely. I that was one of the things that I was wanting to bring up is there's probably tons of kids that are there now that feel the same way that I did. Um, and I worry for them. I guess I wasn't I was strong enough to make it through, even though I still tried to commit suicide. Some of them might be like, I'm gonna hold these pills down. Um, and I'm so sad that they feel that way. If anyone does, I'm sure there are. Um,
What What do you think it would have? What if Coal Valley Speaks happened 10 years ago, and you saw this video, this interview while you were in Coal Valley? Like, what would it do for you? Like somebody
Honestly,
with the story you ended up having, somebody who like opened up like this and talked about being gay in Coal Valley and how they process, everything.
um, me personally,
Yeah.
um, I probably would have looked for an out from Coal Valley. Um, I had begged my parents to take me out, and I wouldn't tell them why. I just said I don't feel comfortable here, but I wouldn't say why. Um, I probably would have looked for an out. I probably would have been like, oh, okay, it says anybody who practices homosexuality is no longer able to be there. I probably would have been like, hey, I'm gay. Kick me out. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here. Um, I think honestly, in some way, Coal Valley was helpful for me. Um, though, so I'm glad that I didn't leave in my personal opinion, because when I came out, that showed me even more the world is not like this, and
There's a place for
now I
you.
know what to look out for. I know what to be like. I know how to actually be like, you know what, I'm not worth what you're saying. I'm worth better. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess it gave me kind of like a harder exterior to let things like homophobia just bounce right off me.
It was like so bad in Coal Valley that when you came out, like when you were out in the real world, you're like, oh, it's not as bad as Coal Valley. Like I made it through the
Yeah,
worst part already.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Um, Anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
Um, Not that I can really think of. Just mainly anybody who has these issues or anything, or just needs to talk. I'm available to talk to anybody, um, especially if you're experiencing what I went through, um, or have experienced it, or want to just say hi. I'm I'm down to talk to anybody with their feelings, and if
Yeah.
somebody was there for me for that outlet, I probably wouldn't have felt so alone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably Facebook Messenger. Um, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Um, just send me a message. If we feel like you need other routes of getting a hold of me, like email or phone number, I'll give it then. But
And maybe if anybody feels like, once this interview has come out,
mhm.
they don't want to be seen to be like friends with you on Facebook all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like you can send a message without doing a friend request, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they need to do that, that's completely fine. Just send me a message. It'll ask me if I want to accept the message, and then I just respond, and
And
I'll
then
respond.
there's open access. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
Um, I feel like most stuff has been touched on in other videos. So, um,
What were some of the things that you like would go into, but you feel like they've already been covered?
mainly, mainly how women are treated in Coal Valley. Um, my sister, um, told me that she had some negative experiences also with having what was perceived as low cut shirts, stuff like that. It was just, I feel like all the teachers, female and male, had the same views on it. It's just, it was so frustrating. And I saw some of it, and it was hard for anybody to say anything because it was a teacher that would bring it up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the root of where it's at, is enforcing those policies on girls.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Well, last two questions are: what do you have a message for Coal Valley administration? Like, what do you want them to know or like to take away from this interview? And then secondly, what do you want prospective parents, people that are thinking about putting their kids in Coal Valley, what do you want them to know
Yeah.
or think about?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that I would want teachers and administration to basically abolish the anything about homosexuality that they have. I know that's not realistic um, from their point of view, but it would save lives. I know it would. Um, it it's not right to have that in general, even though it's a view of theirs that being gay is a sin. They can they say that, and then that makes a child think I'm a sin because I can't help it. Um, it's wrong. And those parents may agree that it's a sin too, but that doesn't mean that they should reflect that view on their child. They should show their child love instead of trying to help change them. And bringing your kid into an environment where they see that it's very negative for their kid, and they're hurting their kid. I wish my parents would have seen what it had done. I wish I was more open with them about how I was being negatively hurt. And I think that all kids who are growing up, they don't know how to voice that. So parents should be more aware that
Mm-hmm.
a kid.
Mm-hmm. I guess that was for administration and parents, or was that just the administration?
Yeah, kind of both.
Kind of fusion, yeah.
Yeah.
So for administration, you don't need to have a hard stance on this. Like,
yeah.
there's a range of opinions. You don't need to choose one. You can be ambiguous about it because that reflects like Christian thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and parents think about how you need to love your kids, and you're hurting your kids putting them in an environment that's teaching them that they are a sin.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Drew, thanks for sharing all that, man. That's
Yeah.
some heavy shit. But it's
Yeah.
so good. I think, I mean, I hope it feels good to talk about it, but I think it's going to mean a ton for a lot of people that watch it. And, I really hope that I'm sure there's a gay kid in Coal Valley right now that's going to watch it, and it's going to change their life, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Really do.
All right. Well, thanks again. You have a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, you too.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.